What is up, my people? I've got some exciting news for you. My friends, 1080p and 1440p gamers rejoice. Long you have been ridiculed by 4K gamers, but today, victory is yours because 4K gamers, well, they can't find graphics cards, and if they can find them, they can kind of barely afford them. There's a couple of good deals out there for some 4K cards, but overall it's a much tougher market for that kind of gaming. But let me tell you about all the good, freaking amazing deals that we got going on here for 1080p, 1440p gaming. And the reason I'm making this video is because we're in such a, we're in the RAM crisis, guys. We're in this shortage right now, and it's got building new PCs, DDR5 PCs, even DDR4 is a bit more pricey. And so, you know, when you're gaming at lower resolutions, depending on what your goals are, your refresh rate goals are, there are much lower powered cards that will just work for you. They'll just be great solutions. There's CPUs that will work fine for older games, lower resolutions. Like I can't ignore that modern titles can be so demanding at a CPU level that depending on what your goals are, depending on what games you're trying to play or what sorts of longevity you're looking for, it wouldn't make sense to make an investment into these systems. Like, that's not necessarily what I'm saying, go buy DDR3 system because DDR4 is too expensive. Um, what I'm really trying to say is that if you have a system that's older or that doesn't seem like it has as much potential, now is the time for it to shine because of the cards that you can pair with it and the prices that you can pay for those cards right now. So I just typed in GPU to Facebook Marketplace. That's kind of my favorite little shop, and I got to scroll back up to the top of the list here. But yeah, let's just look at some of the stuff you can get in Marketplace right now, and we'll try to look through this pretty quick. But yeah, here's a 3070 Twin Edge. It says cleaned, repasted, everything's been good. $170 for a 3070 right now. There's a water cooled 1080 here for $120. Another one for 120. A 1080 Ti, I should even say. Here's a 4060 for 285. Not the best deal, but it's a newer card. This was crazy. This is a 2080 Super Water Force, so it even comes with its own built-in like AIO cooler for $180. Dude, imagine the kind of how bitchin' your computer will be slapping in a water-cooled GPU like that for 180 bucks. You'd just be smiling all day. And it's a 2080 Super. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good card. Here's a 1660 Super for 85 bucks. A 4070 for $390. Okay, so like, man, another 1660 Super for 100 bucks. 2060 6 gigabyte, $160. Not the best deal, but you could talk them down to 140, I'm sure. Here's another 2080 Ti. This one they want 150 for. Um, yeah, here's a 3080 10 gigabyte card for 375. 375 for that one. Uh, what else do we have in the list here? Here's a 1060 6 gigabyte, 75 bucks. 3060 12 gigabyte, $220. They definitely take 200 bucks. I had recently picked up a 3060 Ti for $200 for my brother's computer. Here's that one. I don't know if this one's working actually, so we'll ignore that one. Here's a 4070 Super for 475 to a 12 gigabyte 4070 Super. 475. Yeah, I'm actually listing my card right now too. I've got my 3090 listed for 600 bucks. Which is one of the cheaper 3090s that's out there. But I'm just trying to be in tune with the market and maybe move on to something else. Here's a 3060 12 gig for 200 again. Um, yeah, here's a 4060 for 250. 5700 XT, $120. I mean, it just goes on and on. Like, oh, here's a 6900 XT for 325. Exciting. All right, here's a 9070 XT for 700 bucks. So, that's more expensive, but that's like right around MSRP. That's like the retail cost for one of those. So there's no scalper, it's in the box and everything. Here's a 3080 10 gigabyte for 325. 3060 here for 175. Um, a 3050 6 gig for 140. Um, yeah, 75 for another 1060 6 gigabyte. Here's a 980 Ti 6 gigabyte for 70 bucks. Like, yeah, 150 for this 2070 Super, 225 for this 3070. This just goes on and on. Like, the list just doesn't end. 140 for this 2060. Yeah, 120 for 3050 6 gigabyte. Um, 190 for this 2070 Super again. I mean, yeah, 200 for a 2080 Super. 60 bucks for a 1650. Yeah, it just does not end. I mean, this is just ridiculous. 275 for this 3070. So it's like the market's just crazy for this stuff right now. I mean, yeah, like I could just keep going. I could keep going. Here's another $230 4060. Like everyone's right in neck and neck with each other. I don't know, just trying to move on to bigger and better cards, trying to get more frames and stuff. I have to imagine, they upgraded and they're selling. That's generally why people sell. But if you haven't upgraded yet, if you have an older computer, if you've been struggling to get into gaming in one way or another, like what I'm planning on doing here, I haven't picked it up yet, but I'm going to be getting a 3050 6 gigabyte to put in my parents' Lenovo ThinkCenter computer. This thing was like an old Domino's computer, like it powered their point of sale system, and then they gave it away because they're upgrading to the NUCs and stuff like that. And so it has the Xeon equivalent of a 6700 in it. It's got 32 gigabytes of RAM. I got two of them, so I took the RAM from one to the other. It only has a 250 watt power supply. That's it. That's all the power budget you're working with. You can't put a 1660 Super in it. You can't put a RX 580. Forget about it. You can still put a 3050 6 gig in it, and you can still game at 1080p at like high settings and have a good time. And that's exciting. Like, I think that's exciting. And yeah, there's so many computers right now that you can upgrade and have like, I mean, you could still be gaming on, yeah, like say that 6700K or an 8700K, and you can put a 3070 in there, 3070 Ti, something like that, 6800 XT, something like that, and you can game at 1440p at fairly high refresh rates, like 140, 160 some frames in some games. I mean, refresh rate, it really depends on the game. Like that's depends on what you're playing. But the point is that you can pair some really powerful cards with some lower powered systems and still have a really good time at a particular resolution or particular refresh rate. And I think now's a great time to take advantage of it. I think anybody who, you got an old computer, you have something that has a 1060 in it right now, you might as well put a 3060 in it. You know what I mean? If it hasn't gotten that GPU upgrade yet. If you're still rocking some kind of mid-tier system or old high-end system that hasn't gotten some sort of end-of-life upgrade, and maybe you still use this computer, now's the time. Now's the time. I think that these are around the bottom of the market as far as like the point at which they're going to become cheaper than this. These systems that you might be pairing these cards with won't be as useful in modern titles. So in that way, it's a now or never type deal. You know what I mean? So that's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to cover with you guys today, is just the fantastic potential of the used market right now for 1080p and 1440p gaming, for upgrading older systems, and just having a good time gaming, for some low prices. These cards were hundreds or thousands at different times. Some of the upper tier cards during different scarcities, during the release, whatever. So savings is huge. Get them while they last. So you get the supplies while they last. I mean, I was trying to push my brother to upgrade. He was like, I'm still happy with my 2070 Super. I was pointing him at a 6900 XT, that $325 one I was telling you about. He's happy. He doesn't need to upgrade. So if you feel like you don't need to upgrade, that you don't need to upgrade. But he has a 9600X processor in that system. So at what point he wants to upgrade, his headroom is covered. He's cleared. If he was still using his 9600K system, I also wouldn't necessarily be pushing him because he's content. But if you weren't content, say you had a 9600K system and you were gaming with something like a 2070 Super and you wanted an upgrade right now, I would tell you to put that 2070 Super on the market for $150 and go and buy that 6900 XT or 6800 or whatever you can get, 3070 Ti. Go put that in there. And like, you are going to have a little bit of a GPU bottleneck, or CPU bottleneck I should say, but that'll be a worthwhile upgrade to you. Like, I'm positive of it, because now when you upgrade your system again in the future, that is going to be a much better holdover card for you to upgrade your GPU again. And you're not looking at a total system upgrade. So by kind of walking your way between your components here, where you move your GPU up, you move your motherboard CPU up, you move your GPU up again, you can create some really long-term systems and kind of, walk a nice upgrade path where you're paying less, but you're still buying new parts sometimes, but in general you're going to save a lot of money like that. So I think that was everything I can cover. Like, I think I'm just going to keep rambling if I keep talking. So thank you for joining me. Super fun stuff. Go out and buy some used cards. Peace.